Okay, so then I closed my VPN, tried it again, and yep, same thing, it wanted to do it. So somebody in the Bangkok airport had it set up where if you were trying to go to a site, and it's pretty easy to do, hey, I'm going to try to intercept you so that I can get your credentials logging into your banking website, and of course they can do whatever they want at that point. So this isn't theoretical stuff, this is bad stuff. A way that companies can address this, by the way, is they can mandate via software where it says, you know what, if you're connecting to a public Wi-Fi hotspot, that VPN client needs to be up within a minute, and if it's not, we're disconnecting you. So that way any data that's transversing, that's flying through the air is going to be encrypted. It's kind of a big deal, and a lot of companies, I know you know customers of mine, a lot of them take advantage of that. Here's a real good one. I was talking about this earlier. You can crack WEP, right? Is it super duper easy to do? Well, it's pretty easy to do, right? Here's a real staggering statistic, and I can tell you it's probably a higher number than this. But 46% of corporations still use WEP as a wireless LAN standard. Think about that. TJ Maxx, you all know how they got hacked? Because they were using WEP. That's the big mess they're in, is because they were using WEP. Why is that true? Why are companies still using WEP? Well, it's because they don't have the time, money, and resources to change it. Is ultimately what it comes down to. It also comes down to just apathy. We know, but it's not going to hit us. It's not important to us. Clearly, it's important to a number of companies that were out there. So why does that matter when it comes to mobility? Well, think about this for a second. And this is a pretty common scenario, configuration, by the way. Let me just kind of get rid of some of these things here. This is a pretty common scenario that I see companies say. They say, you know what, I have a bunch of home office workers. So I want them to be able to work like they're at the office. So we're going to put this hardware VPN device on their LAN. So that way they just go into their home office, sit down, pop open their computer, and it's as if they're on the corporate LAN, right? So if you look at that VPN device, which is just to the right of the wireless access point there, that's the device I'm talking about. So it creates a tunnel to the corporate VPN, so they're on a LAN. Well, what's going on to the left of that on the LAN side? Well, often it's wireless. It's not hard to put wireless in place at home, right? You can get an access point for $35, sometimes even cheaper. So you put that in point, but let's say it's WEP. Let's say you're implementing WEP, which if 46% of enterprises are using WEP, how many homes do you think are using it? Probably at least as many, right? So why is that a big deal? Well, let's say that it's broken. That data, that sensitive corporate data, is actually flying through the air that somebody could potentially see. And if you look at this specific example I have here, this is actually me sniffing, we use Lotus Notes, email, me sniffing an email message. And if you look at the content, it's actually kind of interesting. Evidently, the Cubs are going to beat the Yankees in the World Series next year. So bet on that. But the point is this, you run a sniffer. If you're able to break WEP at somebody's house, you can sniff their data. If they're a corporate user, it could be potential information like this. This is email being synced, okay? That's a pretty big deal, right? So that's kind of a way to kind of open your eyes about enterprise type stuff. So we touched upon a couple different things today. If you get nothing else from this, I hope you get this, is that mobility completely changes the game. You can have whatever systems you want on the LAN. If that machine leaves the LAN, they don't even come into play, okay? And you're never ever going to be more vulnerable than when you're not on the LAN, particularly when you're in a public Wi-Fi hotspot. A couple areas that you all can get additional information. I work for a company called Fiberlink.com. Fortunately, or Fiberlink, I should say. Fortunately, everything that I told you right now on how to address these different things, we do. So that's kind of nice. Talk to companies about that. But we can also go there. We have hacking videos. So I showed you one hack, right? Visit a web page and do that. If you want to see a bunch more exactly how they're done, you can go to Fiberlink.com and view those videos. Also, ethicalhacker.net is a really good security resource. You can go there and view different hacking articles. I have a couple that are up there. And then, of course, the two books. The book in the back, Blackjacking, is about hacking BlackBerries and PDAs and all that kind of good stuff. And then the new one that's coming out next month, which I'm really excited about, because this whole mobile NAC and LAN-based NAC comparison, this really dishes it out. Basically what it does, it says, let's look at the threats. Let's show actual hacks and how LAN-based NAC addresses them and how mobile NAC addresses them. And if you're interested in NAC at all, I think it'll open up a lot of eyes at how little LAN-based NAC can actually catch as compared to mobile NAC. Okay? So I've been talking for a while now, and I'd love to get some questions and insight from you all. Tell me something that I don't know. Anybody got any questions or comments?
Turn your microphone on and ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, do you think that you could build a system secure enough that you could not break into it?
Me, probably. I'm not that smart. Other people, you know, It's about, we had this conversation earlier, and I have this conversation a lot. There's nothing that's foolproof. There's nothing that's going to be foolproof. But it's about making it difficult. And I can tell you right now that hackers try to go for the easy target. They really do. It could be anybody. It could be my mom. She has sensitive stuff on her machine. Or it could be somebody, an executive from IBM that happens to be there. Everybody has something. So they go for the low-hanging fruit. So is it possible? No. But are there tangible steps that every enterprise needs to take? Absolutely. AV running up to date, anti-spiral running up to date, personal firewall on every machine, encryption on every machine, the ability to control what devices can connect to that machine, the ability to control what people can do with the data that's on the machine, and the insight to be able to patch them wherever they're at and restrict them wherever they're at. That type of stuff that you need to have. If you have that, you get 99% of the most of the stuff. Well, maybe not 99%. A good amount of the stuff that's out there. That answer your question? All right. Any other? Yes, sir.
My question has to deal with P2P on remote mobile machine. Can you just elaborate on what kind of threats that poses?
Yeah, that's great. And the question was around peer-to-peer applications. And I've got some really good, I'm glad you brought that up. I have some really good examples of that. And that's basically, it could be anything from an instant messaging application to something like a Kazaa or a BitTorrent. And I actually, about 6 months ago, just went on there. Somebody had mentioned, you'd be surprised how many tax returns you can find. From that, because people install the application wanting to share their MP3s or whatever, but they end up sharing a lot more than they really wanted to. I can tell you what, I was shocked on there. Not only did I find tax returns, mortgage applications to get into school. You talk about information you need to take over somebody's identification. Look at a mortgage application. Believe me, I've got 3 or 4 of them. No. But you find information like that. A real good example of that, I was in India also earlier this year working with our development team. We got some really good guys out there. The guy comes up to me and says, you know what, I won't mention the specific one, I was on here and look what I found. It was a vulnerability assessment, where a company comes in and says, all right, company, I'm going to assess all your technology and tell you where your holes are. Vulnerability assessment. I found this vulnerability assessment for this bank. Think about that. So if you want to attack this bank, here's exactly how to do it. Here's a blueprint on how to do it. Found that on those. Real big problem. How I'm seeing a lot of companies address that is how I would address it personally. Is I would say, know what's running on everybody's machine and stop bad applications from running. And it doesn't mean whitelisting. You'll see some applications that are out there that says only these applications can run and anything else, including BitTorrent and Kazaa, can't run. Honestly, those aren't mature to work in corporate America right now. I know somebody who works for one of those companies is going to call me, but I'm being realistic about it. They're not. But you know what? You can see every application that's running on everybody's machine wherever they're at, and you can prohibit them from running. Extremely, extremely important to do. That was the FBI ran into that, or CIA, one of the two, or both, ran into that. Huge, huge, huge hole. Glad you brought that up. Any other questions? Harry's still a good place to go to, or no? All right. Well, if that's it, I'm going to stick around a little bit afterwards. If everybody wants any comments or questions afterwards, love to talk to y'all. Thanks.